On today's XRS call, we're going to be going through the Hours of Service tab on the home page of XRS and also the DVIR tab. Before we get started, I'd like to go to the Help, and I'd like to click on Knowledge Base here and show you where some of the help topics are for what we're going to be talking about today. They're going to be found by clicking on the HOS button here or DVIR. When I click on the HOS icon right there, we'll see down here some topics that you can view information on. Over on the left hand side of the screen, there'll be information such as the driver log editor, viewing a log, unassigned vehicle activity, and creating a log from that unassigned vehicle activity. And these are examples of some of the things that we're going to be covering on this call. So this is a good first place to go for information on what we're going to be talking about today. DVIR information as well. So keep in mind that you can always access the knowledge base for answering questions on any aspect of the XRS website. And also, if you find things that might not work the way that you would like them to, or you find a problem on the website, anything of that nature, you want to go to the Contact Us link here in the upper right hand corner. If you click on the Contact Us link, you'll have a link to the knowledge base. You can open a case with support, give support a call or email. So especially in the beta stage, if you find something that you think could be better, something that doesn't work like you think it should, it'd be good to email the XRS support group so we can get that logged and take a look at making some changes to that. So I'm going to click back on the home link here to get back to the home page. And then the first thing under Hours of Service here that I'm going to talk about is the driver log report. So I'm going to pull up the driver log report, and with most of the reporting here on the web page, I have to pick a start date and an end date. Now there are some display options here when I'm running the driver log. I can elect to not show logins or logouts on the log. I can elect to not show duty status change types, which would be auto duty status change types or manual duty status change types. I can elect not to show site IDs that have been created on the XRS website. Here I'm able to select an organization and then select the resource group, either or. I'm going to go ahead and just select the resource group here that I know my drivers are a member of. Now over on the right, you'll see we have some more options for selecting before we run the report. We have include history. What that pertains to is if you've moved a driver, for example, and you're running a date range on this report where that driver could be a member of more than one organization, do you want to include the history for all those organizations, yes or no? The next one here is only logs with working days that you want to see when you run the log, yes or no? Only logs with violations, only logs with personal conveyance on them, and only logs with edit. Now once we're done selecting any of these display options and we have our date range set here, go ahead and click on Generate Report. And now it's going to pull up a copy of the driver log for that date range. Now here in my resource group I had 2 drivers selected, so you can see at the top of the page we have 36 pages here on this particular driver's log. I can navigate between different pages on the log by clicking on the right arrows or the left arrows to go back. This is a search box here, so I can search for text in the report. I can export the report if I choose to, right here by this option. And then here's a print preview option right here as well. Now as far as the driver log report, underneath where it says driver log report, there's the date of the particular day we're viewing. Over on the right here we have total driving distance today. And then working kind of from left to right here, it's going to show the driver's name associated with the log, the organization, co-driver's name, and then to the right, co-driver's organization, the vehicle ID associated with this log, and if you had multiple vehicles that you were in that day, they would be listed, trailer IDs associated with today's log, and trailers are a required field on a driver's log, so it is suggested that you have the driver do a pre-trip inspection on the mobile device of a trailer so that that information makes it to the driver's log. Next, we're going to have the hours of service rule set that we have configured. Shipping information, so like manifest numbers that your drivers have entered into the mobile device will be listed here. And once again, that's a requirement of a driver's log too in 395.8 and 395.15. So once again, it is suggested that your drivers enter that information into the mobile device so that shows up on the log. Next, we have the from and the to. So that's going to be where I began the trip and where I ended the trip. And then below that, you're going to have your address information. Now below the address information is the actual log graph where it's going to show the different statuses on the log. And then to the right, it's going to show the total hours in each one of those statuses. And then you have the actual log graph itself. Now down below, here in the remarks section, you have an ID column which correlates with the remarks section on the graph, and then you have a timestamp here for each one of these events. Now the events, so as you can see, will range from logins to logouts. We have our manual duty status changes and our auto duty status changes. Inspections will show up here. Shipping information, remarks. So there's some examples of what you might see in the driver's log. And then the detail associated with each one of those events will show here as well. So for example, I can see at 8:38 a.m. we did a pre-trip inspection of vehicle 2929. Now in the location column, you're going to see typically a proximity in a city and state, and if you have sites set up on the website and the vehicle was parked inside the geocode radius for that site, it'll show the ID of the site that that event occurred at. In the C/H column, that stands for current or historical. And where you might see historical is if you do an edit to the driver's log. Then it'll have the historical value as well as the current value. The edited by column right here will show that an individual who did the edit of the log and what time they did that edit. In this example here, we don't have an edited log that we're viewing right here. But if we did, that would show up in the edited by column, and then on the bottom of the log, you would also see an icon that signified that the log had been edited, and we'll see that here during the course of the call. So that's what a driver's log looks like on the XRS website. Next, let's talk about how to edit the log on the website. So an example of why you might need to edit a log: you have a driver who forgot to log off duty at the end of the day. Now they're on duty all night, for example. So let's talk about how we would make a correction to that log. An example right here would be one that we're viewing right here, where this driver forgot to log off duty at the end of the day. You can see down in the remarks section that the last status is on duty. So the first thing you have to do when you're editing a log is you have to figure out what you need to change to make that log accurate. And that's what the key is when you're editing a driver log. You have to make the log accurate. You can also see when I look at the detail here that we did a pre-trip inspection of the vehicle, we did a pre-trip inspection of the trailer, and typically we would do a post-trip inspection of the both the vehicle and the trailer as well. So that would be something that we would probably add to the log too. Okay, but the main thing is we got to get the driver off duty in this example. Okay, now you want to have all the aspects of the log accurate. So like I said, you'd want to do the post-trip inspection of the vehicle and the post-trip inspection of the trailer as well. So once you figure out what it is that you need to change on the log, where do you make that change? And that's going to happen from hours of service here, and you click on Edit Driver Log. So on the Edit Driver Log page, I'd have to get the date that I wanted to edit the log for, and that's going to be right up here, 2/13. So I'll find the driver that I want to edit the log for. Double click on that driver, and then I'm going to put the date in here, and then I'm going to click on Go. Alright, so when you look at the log in the editor here, it looks similar in nature to what we're seeing right here. And like I said, what we're looking to do is set this driver off duty. Now, what time are we going to set the driver off duty? Oh, they got back, let's say, at 5:49 p.m. So there should be the inspections should happen, let's say, at 5:50 p.m. After the inspections, we'll just hypothetically say take 20 minutes, which would be 6:10 p.m. and then we're off duty at 6:11 p.m. So that's our hypothetical. Now your times may differ there, but we'll go ahead and we'll try to get that driver off duty at 6:11 p.m. Now here's the driver log editor page, and once again there's going to be information pertaining on how you do these procedures in the knowledge base. Okay, now the first thing, like I said, what we're going to do is we want to get this driver off duty at the proper time, and we already said that was 6:11 p.m. Now on the driver log editor, if you're looking at multiple days here, you'll be able to navigate between these multiple days right here, but you can see that this is the day that we're viewing. Then it tells us what rule set we're operating off of too, and then once again you have your log graph with your hours here over on the right. You'll also see some information pertaining to what vehicle was associated with the log and what equipment ID. And then you can see that we have distance here as well. Now there's an undo all edits function here, so if I start making changes to this log and then I realize I made a mistake and I want to start over, I can click on undo all edits. The changes here are typically going to be made by using the insert event button right here, and you can see all the different things that I'm able to do as far as the log is concerned. It's almost like you're putting together a puzzle. You're just putting different pieces onto that puzzle, but the key is making that log accurate. So the example that we're going to do right here is we're going to insert that off-duty status at 6:11 p.m. So I'm going to click on Insert Duty Status, and then it brings up the Insert Duty Status box. Now I need to make sure that my date is correct, which it is, and then the time. The time we already said was going to be 6:11 p.m. So if I click on the clock icon right there, I'll just go to 6, then I'll change that to 11. Status is going to be off duty. Make sure you got that right. You can either select the location as being the site if you have sites configured, or city and state. I'm just going to go with the city and state. So I'll navigate to the state, then I'll start typing in my city, select that, and then you always have to leave a comment when you're making a change, an edit to the log that pertains to what you're doing. So I'll just put driver forgot to log off duty. And then I'm going to click on OK. and it should insert that off-duty log status, which it did. Now if there's other things that you need to change, for example, I see some of these duty status says NA right here, and the reason mine say NA is because I was parked in the garage when I started the trip, so that's why mine say NA. Now there's an edit icon over here on the left. It looks kind of like a pencil, and that, if I click on it, would allow me to change that location for that duty status. It is required that you have a location for duty statuses, so that's something that I'd want to change. You can see it says NA, so I would just change that. Put the city in there. Leave the comment. Verify that everything's correct here. And then I'm going to click on OK. And that should update that location. So you can see there's two examples of edits that we're doing. We're trying to make this log accurate. Now you can see that some of the colors here change up on the log. And if you go into the knowledge base, you go into driver log editor here, it's going to give you definitions of those colors right here. For example, black, green, blue. So definitely take a look at some of this information in the knowledge base. There's information like what we're doing right now, inserting duty status changes, things of that nature. Inserting events. So we're talking about inserting duty statuses and all these different insert event functions that you can do too. So here it talks about the event types, okay, then these icons that we just pointed you towards. So the bottom line is a lot of good information here in the knowledge base that you can refer to if you're not sure on what to do. Okay, so you can see that we got that off-duty log status in at 6:11 p.m. and the last step in the process would be saving this. So I'll just go ahead and click on save. Now keep in mind, what we typically would do is we'd put everything in there before we saved it. So I'm not going through the example right now of adding that post-trip inspection for the vehicle and the trailer, but in typical situations you'd want to make sure that you did that. So I'm going to go ahead and hit save here. Now you can see I get a message that if I accept these log edits, violation status will be as follows. And then I go ahead and click on accept. Okay, it says it was successfully saved. Now any change that you make to a log on the website will not be reflected on the mobile device until the driver's next login. So if a driver forgot to log off like this driver did, I would have to tell that driver, you need to log out and log back in, and now those changes that I made will be reflected on the mobile device. Now along with that, when they do log back in, they're going to get a message on the mobile device that says their logs have been edited. And when they acknowledge that, it's going to take them to their log screen on the mobile device, and it's going to instruct them to review those logs to make sure that they're accurate. And then they're going to have to acknowledge that they are accurate. So there is functionality on the mobile device so that the driver has to review any changes that were made pertaining to his or her log on the website. Now once again, don't forget, there's a lot of different information that we can go through in terms of editing a driver's log. All these events that we can insert, once again, vehicle inspections, trailer inspections, work time extensions, remarks. We can insert a co-driver. We can also insert shipping information. So manifest numbers, if a driver forgot to enter in a manifest number, that needs to be on the log. Insert distance fix. So if the value in miles is not what it should be in terms of the log, you can update that here as well. So pretty much anything that isn't right with the log, isn't accurate, you can change in the driver log editor. So that's the process of editing a driver's log. And once again, that's found under Edit Driver Log here. Now below Edit Driver Log, you can see that we have Record Driver Meeting. What that is there for is, let's say you have a driver meeting for all your drivers on a Saturday, let's say, and we want to put all that meeting time on their driver's log. So if we have a 2-hour meeting on a Saturday, we need to have 2 hours of on-duty time on all the drivers' logs. And you can just do a mass add of that. You just select your drivers here by clicking on this icon, select all your drivers, just double click on them. And that'll add the drivers here. You can see I'm adding a bunch. I would click OK, select the start date and time, the end date and time, location, and then you can put a comment in here pertaining to, hey, we had a driver log meeting on this day or that day, and then click on save, and that'll add all that information to the driver's logs. Next, under hours of service, that we have the driver log summary. The driver log summary it's a 1-day log summary for each one of your drivers that you select for the date range that you select. I'm just going to select my resource group here, click on save, and then select the date range. And then I'm going to click on generate report. So here's the driver log summary. You can see that we have 2 pages. There's 2 drivers in my resource group, so that's why I'm going to see 2 pages. Navigation up here is the same with your export and your print preview. Here's my date range over here, my driver ID, and then my driver's name that we're viewing the information for. There's a date column, and you can see that the date column is linkable, and that is linked to the driver's log. So if I'm looking through the summary for a given driver here, and I want to look at their driver's log based on what I'm seeing, I can go ahead and click on this link. There's also a column for the day of the week, the rule that we're operating under, total driving distance for the day in question, drive time. Then we have on-duty time, not to include drive time, and then on-duty plus drive time, hours accumulated. If we have a driver in violation, that violation will be listed under the violation type column. And then the violation time column would be the occurrences of those different violations. Now at the bottom of each page for the driver, all this information is going to be summarized. So we have total driving distance, total drive time, total on-duty time not driving, my total hours accumulated, days with violations, and my last certified date. The last certified date signifies the last time that we have logged out of XRS Mobile and certified our log on that device. So once again, this is going to be the driver log summary report. The next one that we'll touch on is unassigned vehicle activity. The concept behind unassigned vehicle activity is whenever a driver does not do a pre-trip inspection, they are not assigned to that vehicle. So that's how we make the assignment record in XRS. Driver does a pre-trip inspection, now they're associated with that vehicle, so to speak. And if they don't do a pre-trip, they're not. So if I don't do a pre-trip inspection and I start driving, I can't go into drive status on my log because I'm not associated with that vehicle. So that is very important that the driver does those pre-trip inspections of the vehicle to be compliant. The unassigned vehicle activity report will give me visibility in terms of all that activity, if there is any, where drivers were not doing those pre-trip inspections and logging in like they should be. We can sort this or group this rather by vehicle or by organization, so I'm just going to leave mine by organization. I'm going to select resource group, and then I'm going to select the date range and click on generate report. Now this is going to give me all the instances here of unassigned vehicle activity. It'll show me the vehicle ID in question, previous association date and time, and the previous known driver, and then the next association date and time and the next known driver, and then the driver association gap. So the example that I'm going to use is right here. We have a gap from 2/7 to 2/12 of 118 hours and 53 minutes, you can see here. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to click on this vehicle ID link, and then what it's going to do is it's going to take me to a report called Create Log from Unassigned Vehicle Activity. And the concept behind that is we have the vehicle data, so we just want to create a driver's log based on that vehicle data. So I'll click on that link and it'll open up this Create Log from Unassigned Vehicle Activity. So now what I want to do is I see the date in question, one of the dates, and we have unassigned vehicle activity on February 9th. Now if I click on this arrow here, it's going to show me any other unassigned vehicle activity for any other days. Alright, so the first thing you have to do is you have to make sure that there's no activity for that driver for the date in question. In other words, you have to be sure that whoever you're going to assign this vehicle activity to, that they don't already have a driver log. Okay, so if I go to the driver log here, and this is my driver, and we're talking about the 9th of February, I'm going to navigate back on my driver's log to the 9th of February and just make sure that there is no log data. You can see some of these pages I'm navigating back to, there's log data. And that's the 11th. And I'm going to go back to the 9th. That was the 10th, and here's the 9th. So what I'm anticipating seeing, which I do, is there's no log activity. So I'm going to go ahead and create that log based on this unassigned vehicle activity. So it's at the 9th here. I see that's the day I'm dealing with. So I'm going to go up and select the driver here. Double click or you highlight and say OK. Now I got my driver set there, and then I click on Go here. Okay, now I need to assign all the applicable information here to this driver. You'll notice here when I click in the assign box over here on the left that when you click on like a drive box, it automatically fills in the one below it, so duty. So I'm going to go through and I'm going to assign all this information to this driver here. Now you can see that he started driving at the top there at 11:17 a.m. And I'll scroll down, and the last status was driving at 5:02 p.m. So there's going to be some other changes that we're going to have to make, and they're very similar in nature to what we just got done doing a few minutes ago in terms of editing a driver's log. So a driver doesn't just start driving. Okay, they're going to have to be on duty. They're going to do a pre-trip. At the end of the day, they're going to be on duty again to end their day, do their post-trip, and then they're off duty. So there's some other pieces here of this log that we have to add to make it accurate. First you have to figure out what that is. So we'll put the driver on duty at 11 a.m. and you need to be accurate in those instances. Okay, need to know what time for sure. We're going to go with 11 a.m. and then you just, like we did before in the edit driver log, you use the insert event features here. So I click on insert duty status. It was on the 9th. The time is going to be 11 a.m. Status is going to be duty. Put in our city and state. comment. Then click on OK. And now what we're going to have to do is we're going to have to add all the other aspects here. So we're going to have to do an insert event, insert the vehicle inspection. We do that at 11:01 a.m. And then at the end of the day, you can see our last status is going to be driving. That's what it is now. Well, that's not what we have to have it be. So we're going to have to insert a duty status at, let's say, 5:10. Because he drove for 8 minutes, got to where he was going, on duty at the end of the day at 5:10 p.m. And then we're going to have to insert our inspections. So we'll have to insert our vehicle inspection at the beginning of the trip and at the end of the trip. And then we'll probably want to insert the trailer inspection. And we'll want to insert shipping information. So we have several other aspects here of this unassigned vehicle activity that we need to insert. And it's very similar in nature to what we just got done doing in the edit driver log. And once we're done with that, we're just going to click on save. And that's how to assign unassigned vehicle activity to a driver's log. Now once again, you can also reference, when we talked about the knowledge base there, reference the knowledge base. Essentially you're doing the same thing. You're editing events, things like that. Okay, so it boils down to what we just did. All right, so that's unassigned vehicle activity. Okay, and once again, unassigned vehicle activity goes into creating that log from unassigned vehicle activity. The next one here that we'll talk about is the driver log edit summary. Close out some of these windows here. So here's the driver log edit summary. Now, whenever you make a change to a log, that's an edit. And the summary is just going to give us visibility in terms of who are we doing all these edits for. So we have, let's say, 20 drivers, and we run this summary report, this edit summary report, and it's going to summarize the number of edits that we're doing for all these drivers. So it gives us visibility in terms of who we might need to work with to get their edits down. You know, if it takes, let's say, 3 to 5 minutes to do an edit, if that's what it takes, and for one driver for a week we're doing 20 edits versus the other guys we're doing 1 edit, then let's spend some time with that driver, try to get that driver going in the right direction so we don't have to spend time doing all those edits to his or her log. So here I'm going to select my resource group, select my date range, and then click on generate report. And once again, this is going to be the summary report. Okay, on the summary report, it's going to list your drivers, so driver name column, then you got driver ID, then it's going to list the total number of edits. So now we have visibility in terms of who we're doing all these edits for. And then we categorize the different edits. So we have duty status, change edits, vehicle inspection, trailer inspection, hours of service rules, remarks, work time extensions, shipping information, co-driver, and distance added. So any changes that we make are going to be in these categories. Now if you click on the link to the driver's name here, you're going to get the driver log edit detail report. So under hours of service you have driver log edit summary and you have driver log edit detail. Now I can run the driver log edit detail on demand, but you can also link to it from the driver log edit summary, which we'll do. So I'm going to click on the driver's name here, and now it's going to link to that driver log edit detail report. Okay, the first column is going to show the date and time of the edit, and this is a lot more detailed here. So it shows the date and the time of the edit, and there's also a link in this column, and that's a link to the driver's log. So if I want to link to the driver's log for that day, I can click on this link here. It's going to show the date and the time of the record, the individual who did the edit, what the record type was that was edited, the field that was edited, and what the action was. So did we add something? Did we edit? Did we delete? It's also showing the old value here, the new value, and then when we made those edits, we had to leave comments pertaining to that edit. They're also going to be listed in this column here as well. So visibility in terms of exactly what we're doing with those edits, and you can see here there's an edited one, okay? So it's going to show exactly what was done to the log in terms of the edits. If you have multiple people doing edits and maybe there's some edits that aren't getting done properly, you're going to have visibility in terms of who's doing those edits. And once again, the less edits you have to do, the better. So we have some visibility in terms of these edits. We can coach the drivers, try to get those edits down to where we're not having to do them. So both the driver log edit summary and the driver log edit detail will help us in that regard. Now next we have the violation summary and the violation detail. The first one here I'll run is the violation summary. And I'm going to close out of some of these. Once again, I can group it by organization or driver. Those are my options. I'm going to select my resource group here. We'll select the date range. And then we'll click on Generate Report. So this is the violation summary. So this is just going to summarize any violations. So we only have one driver ID here listed on this particular report. Then we have a driver name field. We have days worked, violation time, daily drive, daily duty, weekly duty, 16-hour big day, total violations, total edits, and total distance driving. So the driver name column, when you're on the violation summary, if you click on driver name, that's going to take you to the violation detail report, which I'll click on here in a few minutes. And then we have days worked, so we worked 5 days in that date range. We had 2 hours and 20 minutes of violation time. And then these are the categories of violations. So did we exceed 11 hours of drive for daily drive? Did we exceed our, let's say, 14 hours of daily duty and then drive? That would be daily duty instances. Weekly duty, did we exceed whatever our weekly rule is and then drive that vehicle? 16-hour big day, that would be like if we were on duty after the 16th hour, and that would invalidate our big day, would be an example of where that might increment there. The total number of violations that we had, the total number of edits that were made, and then we have our total driving distance as well. Now, there's several pieces here that are linkable, driver name being one of them, and if I click on driver name, which I'll do in a minute here, that takes me to the violation detail report. The total violations, that takes me to the driver log, okay? So I'm not going to click on that, but that's where it takes you. The total edits, that takes you to the edit detail report. So that report that we just got done viewing, the edit detail, that's what this will link you to. So I'm going to click on the link under the driver name, and it should take me to the edit report, or the detail report rather. So right here under hours of service and violation detail, it should link me to that report, which it did. So now it breaks this down into more detail. So each one of those violations is detailed. So it'll show the date and the time of the violation time, and the violation type. And date and time violation, that's also linked. This is linked to the driver log. So if you're looking at a violation, you're like, what happened there? Or you want to see that visually on the log, you can click on this link right here, and that'll take you to the driver log. Alright, so once again, that's the violation summary in detail. Now the last one under hours of service here is the personal conveyance. So if you're using personal conveyance, we have personal conveyance summary and personal conveyance detail. once again, I can group that by organization or by driver. I'm going to go back here where I had some personal conveyance that I know of. Select my resource group again, click on Generate Report. So here's the personal conveyance summary, and then you also have the personal conveyance detail. So on the personal conveyance summary, it shows the driver's name, how many instances of personal conveyance, your total personal conveyance driving distance, percentage of total distance, total personal conveyance time, motion time for personal conveyance, stop time, idle time, percentage of idle time, idle fuel consumed, and fuel consumed. Now, if you want more detail, there's also personal conveyance detail, and that's linked from the personal conveyance summary report. So you can run it on demand, or you can click on the driver name and it'll get into the personal conveyance detail as well. Either way. And here's what the personal conveyance detail report looks like. So if your company is using personal conveyance, there's two reports there that'll help you break that down a little bit. And that sums up what's under the Hours of Service tab here on the XRS website. Next, what we're going to talk about is DVIR. So the first one that we're going to talk about here is, I'm going to go to Vehicle Inspection Summary. The Vehicle Inspection Summary has a link in it to the Vehicle Inspection Detail Report, and the Vehicle Inspection Detail Report has a link to the Vehicle Inspection Form. So I'm just going to kind of go right through that hierarchy. Vehicle Inspection Summary then we'll click on. Now I can group by all these different options right here. I'm just going to leave mine at driver. I'm going to select my resource group. You can also specify inspection type, asset type. Once I select a date range here, I can also, if I want to narrow it down to a vehicle, I can do so. Narrow it down to a trailer, driver, or inspection item. So there I can narrow it down to a vehicle if I chose to. And then once you have all your variables set there, click on Generate Report. Now this is just going to give you a summary of all those inspections that the drivers are doing on that mobile device. So they're doing their pre-trip vehicle inspections, their pre-trip trailer inspections. It's just going to give you a summary right here. So you can see how it lists driver ID, driver name, total number of inspections, the total number of inspections with defects, and then the defect percentage. Now if I click on the link in the driver name column, this takes me to the vehicle inspection detail. Now the columns up there, we have our asset ID, so what's the ID of my tractor, what's the ID of my trailer, the type, so tractor, trailer. Moving over here, we have our inspection date, the inspection type, so pre-trip, post-trip inspection, midday inspection, results of that inspection, previous inspection, and then safe to operate. And once again, you're going to find information pertaining to these reports in the knowledge base as well. So once I figure out what inspection I want to view, I can click on the link here in the inspection date, and that's going to link me to the vehicle inspection form. So the vehicle inspection form is that report that is going to detail the inspection in terms of, you know, if the driver selected a defect, what specifically was that defect. So I'm just going to select this link right here to take me to the vehicle inspection form. So now we're looking at the vehicle inspection form. So at the top here it shows the carrier, the date and time of that inspection, address, driver, inspection type, so pre-trip, post-trip, etc., location, vehicle ID, so if it was a trailer it'd have the trailer ID, odometer, and then the actual inspection report. Any item that the driver noted as being defective, it'll have an X in the D column. Now this one's a little bit different because we have certified the repair on this particular report, okay? And I'll show you how to do that in a second. But once you do that, the X that is typically in the column here with the D in front of it now gets changed to a check mark in the R column as the person repaired it. So down below as we scroll down, you'll see some check boxes here: previous inspection, vehicles in satisfactory condition, correction is unnecessary for safe operation. Now when a driver does an inspection, they are prompted to leave a comment, and there's company settings that dictate whether or not you're going to make that driver leave a comment pertaining to that inspection, or whether or not you're just going to let them bypass that. Here I have mine set up so if somebody selects a defective item they have to leave a comment, so I just typed in go ahead. Driver's signature shows up here, so that's based on the driver who did the inspection. And then once that has been certified or corrected, it'll show up here under the repair comments in terms of who did that certification of correcting that and then what they did. So that shows up on the vehicle inspection form. Now how does that show up? Well, that's under DVIR and certify repair. Now we've just went through the summary, the form, and the detail, and we showed you how they're linked to each other there. Now under DVIR and certify repair, this would be something good for like a mechanic to have access to. So they can look on this report and see all those items that have been noted as being defective by the drivers. Now at the top here, I can select the date range that I want to view this information for. And then click on save, and it'll display all those items here. And I may have picked a date range with no items, which I think I did. So we'll expand that out. Oh, there we go. Just took me a second. It's all right. So now it just shows all those. It shows by asset name, type, driver name, inspection time, inspection type, and the defect. So if I'm a mechanic, now I know by asset name, asset type, driver name, what defects were noted. And if the driver left a comment, that would show up under driver note. Now if I fix some of these, all I have to do is put a check in the box right here in front of each one and then click on this certify repair. And what that's going to lead to is when I look at the vehicle inspection form, then that's where that check mark comes from, and that's where that repair comments and name comes from. So on certify repair here, when I click on it, it's going to ask for the approver name and the work performed, and then I put the timestamp of what time that repair was made and click on save, and then it will disappear from this list. Okay, so that's functionality in terms of certify repair feature on the XRS website. So we went through all the different aspects of hours of service and DVIR.